Good afternoon, and today on JCT's Fascinating Hobbies I decide to attack the seat cover on my mother-in-law's N16 Almera. Now the first thing that I had to do was work out how to actually pop the head restraint fittings out. Now what I actually discovered is once you get the back seat cover undone, as you unclip it from the bottom here, as you can see, and you actually unzip it, there are the two plastic lugs that hold in the head restraint actually go down into the metal framework of the actual seat itself, and you can literally just sort of pop them out by hand to get those out. Now, once that's done, you can push the seat cover through under the actual foam, and you can start, as I'm doing here, actually unclipping the seat from the metal bracket itself. Now, with the seat cover I'm replacing or putting onto this, I actually ripped the metal bracket out of the foam because it came off a scrap car and I didn't care really what happened to it. But with this one I'm being a little bit more careful and using some good sturdy snips. I'm actually snipping the seat fabric away from the metal frame itself. Now you may want to, if you're doing this, just be a little bit careful when you're actually doing it, and make sure that you collect the little rings when they've come off. You actually take them off the seat itself, so that it doesn't actually sort of tear into the new fabric. What I'm doing here is I've unclipped the seat cover from the metal frames. It does clip onto the metal frame underneath here, and I'm just pushing out those aforementioned head restraint locating things that I sort of mentioned earlier. So there's one there. You can get the cover off then, and then you can remove the other one, and then you'll be able to get the new cover on without too much issue. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm now just removing the seat fabric again from that metal frame, so just clipping it all off, and it's located in a total of 9 places. So you've got 3 along the top and 3 each down each side. So what I'm just doing here is just about to trial fit in the new cover. So this is the new cover, and I'm just trial fitting it to the seat itself to make sure that it hasn't shrunk at all when I washed it, and also to make sure that it looks reasonably acceptable. The next thing that I did was I took 9 cable ties, as you can see here, and I looped the cable ties underneath the metal frame that's actually on the seat itself. You can actually see over on the right hand side the foam has actually split and has exposed some of the metalwork on the seat itself. Now if I was going to do a proper job, I probably would have stuck that foam together, or certainly filled the foam in. But because it isn't particularly difficult to take the seat cover off, that is something that I may revisit at some point in the summer. Simply for the fact that it's quite possible that the metalwork itself may start to wear the new seat fabric down a bit. So I'd rather sort of attack that sooner rather than later. But for the moment, I assembled the seat and got it all sorted out anyway. So what I did with these cable ties is I pushed them through the metal frame that's sort of in the foam itself. So just sort of pop them in and then tease them through. And what I've left these out in this position for is so that when I refit the new cover, I basically clamp the cable ties onto the frame that comes with the new cover. So basically the cover I took off the scrap example, I left, as I said earlier, I left the metal frame actually in the cover itself, so I ripped it out of the foam effectively. So what I'm doing here, because I don't want to rip the frame out of here as I mentioned earlier, is I'm going to fasten the cable ties through the frame that's still attached to the new fabric and clamp it all down so that it sort of brings it down fairly flat. Now what it actually sort of happened when I was clamping these down, it actually sort of turned out, in my view, actually turned out fairly well, because the actual cable ties just got sort of absorbed almost into the foam itself, or hidden by the foam, so that when you sort of pull them tight, the foam does actually sort of does actually sort of mould itself around the cable tie itself, so you don't have any sort of awkward bits of cable ties sticking out. Now for the top run of the bar, I only used 2 cable ties rather than 3. There would have been 3 rings locating it originally, but I used 2 on this occasion, as it seemed that 2 would be more than enough. And once I got those 2 fastened in, I then just basically went up inside the seat cover itself and just looped around the frame itself, as you can see what I'm doing here. Just did that on both sides. So you would do one side at the top, other side at the top, one side in the middle, other side in the middle, one side at the bottom, other side in the bottom, and as you're going along you're pulling those tight all the way down so that you get the seat fabric as close to the foam as possible. On the bottom one, you've got the 2 sort of hoops on that metal frame that come through the bottom of the frame. What I literally just did with those was just sort of hooped it through, so looped the cable tie through the bottom hoops on that frame attached to the new fabric, and then pulled it all together and pulled it all in nice and tight. Once that was done, I pushed the plastic locating strip through the seat so that it actually came out the back of the seat, and then I was able to pull the seat tight over the foam, making sure that both sides were pulled fully tight and there was no trapped fabric at all. And then I could loop the seat, sorry, those 2 black plastic clips at the bottom of the seat, I could loop those into each other and then pull the zip down on the seat cover, and then tuck everything away. And the end result, in my view, was actually fairly pleasing. The seat does not look as tight, or the cover does not look as tight as the passenger seat, which is obviously on its original cover, but in my view it looks much more presentable than having a piece of ripped fabric, or sort of a ripped, torn seat cover, and does sort of overall improve the general appearance of the interior of the car. Obviously once this had been completed, I actually gave the car a thorough vacuum as well, which also sort of further improved things as well. So it sort of really does lift the whole interior, just sort of makes things a lot more pleasant in there. And as I say, the next sort of stage of this project, it's not really a necessary stage, but it's one I probably sort of will take out or sort of take on, is I'm trying to think I might sort of use some expanding foam, or just sort of get some foam to sort of just increase or sort of repair that bolster itself, just so that it doesn't actually sort of tear into the fabric again. Now these locating head restraint things have actually got a little tab on them which locates into the metalwork, the seat frame, and you have to make sure that that piece of that tab is actually lined up with the seat frame itself. So I managed to do that on this occasion, got both of those in, and then you just sort of pull the fabric up around just to you know, sort of make sure it's a bit more sort of fully sort of pushed home and fully set quite nicely. And then once that's done, that is your seat cover replaced. So we're just taking a look now at the cover itself. For some reason I filmed that Vectra as it was a 2.6 litre Vectra, which you don't see very often. And as you can see, the cover itself, that cover there, base cover's a bit dirty and it's got a couple of cigarette burns which need to be dealt with. But as you can see, the cover itself, in my view, it looks fairly pleasing. It's certainly done the job, and looks a lot better than this torn example that we got here. I'm actually keeping this one because I can use some of the fabric on here to make up some patches for the seat base itself. So hopefully I'll be able to do something about those cigarette burns, just to sort of tidy those up. Anyway, this was quite a fun little job. Certainly a nice thing to do over the Christmas period. This is inside the car, so it wasn't too cold. Anyway, if you found this useful, don't forget to hit that like button and also consider subscribing for more upcoming fascinating hobbies. Thank you very much for watching.